Hey everybody, welcome to the tutorial video on the 2023 Toyota Camry LE. Like most of my tutorial videos, we'll typically go from left to right, then we'll work our way up top, and we'll finish the video with the infotainment screen. I go in a moderate to quick pace, and then I kind of slow it down on more important things. So if you need to, use the pause button to pause or even slow down the speed. With that said, let's begin. So starting on the door of the Camry, all four windows are auto down and auto up. So by doing a hard push, I can do it hands-free, and a hard pull, I can do it hands-free. If I do a half a push or a half a pull, I can do it normally like on all other cars. The buttons above are going to be the lock for the windows, and then I have the door lock here. The two little nubbies mean lock. The smooth one means unlock. For the mirror button here, if I turn it to the L, I can toggle the left mirror. This is the neutral position. And here is the R position to toggle the right mirror. And then I want to put it back in neutral so that I don't accidentally bump it and change the mirror adjustment. The driver's seat has a forward and back motion with a twisting in each direction as well. A recliner button here and lumbar support forward or back for some lower back support. The floor mats have two locks here in the front for the driver. If I put it away from the arrows, I can actually lift it up from the carpet, but when I reinstall it, I want to make sure all the arrows line up. The parking brake is a simple push pedal by pushing the brake, and I can also push down the parking brake like that. And I'll see a red letter park over here. And then to release, I push the brake and push this down and let go, and it releases the parking brake. On the bottom portion of the dashboard, there's one lever here to release the hood latch, and the lever for the hood latch will be under the hood just slightly to the right. Moving on up, I have a little storage area over here where I can put whatever I want to keep out of plain sight. And moving on to the right, if I pull this lever down, I can release the steering wheel, which will telescope and raise and lower. On the dash, I can use this button here to activate the auto high beams, which will only work when I'm in automatic on the headlights. I can turn off the traction control in case I want full power to the wheels. If I push and hold this, it will release the trunk, which is also available on the key as well. And to push and hold this will release the locking gas door, which is going to be on the driver's side of the vehicle. And then this button engages fully, which is going to start up my heated steering wheel. On the steering wheel stalk here, I have the DRL off position. That means I'm driving with no lights at all. Automatic will give me daytime runner lights and kick on the taillights and interior lights when it gets dark out or I'm in a tunnel. Parking lights to light up all the interior buttons, or a dim light on the outside so that I'm visible while not driving. And then the manual way of doing the headlights, just in case I'm not interested in the auto position. An example of when I'd want to use the manual headlights is if it's raining during the day and I want the taillights on, which during the day when it's raining, the auto system might not think it's dark enough to kick those taillights on yet. Another fun feature, if I tap and release, it'll do 3 blinks on the blinker on both sides, which is for merging lanes on the highway. The right stalk on the steering wheel is for the wiper blades. It's a very simple stalk. It just has a downward motion or pulling towards you or pushing away. If I click it down once, it goes into the intermittent phase, which I can change how often it goes with the ring. If I click it downward again, it'll go into the low. If I click it down a third time, it's going to go into the high position and move very fast. When I get to the top of the stalk, I just have this little thing here where if I pull this towards me, it's going to squirt the front. If I was in a RAV4, I could push this away and it would squirt the washer fluid on the back. But since we don't have a rear wiper, we only have the option to spray the washer fluid in the front. Onto the steering wheel. We have 2 pads, one on each side with some buttons below. The arrows, select, and back button on the left side here operate the MID, which is the multi-information display. Those are going to go through the different icons and menus there, which we'll get into soon. The phone button here will answer or hang up calls, or prompt me to connect my phone for the first time. The volume button here is going to change the volume to my music or my phone calls. And then this button here activates the voice commands. If I'm connected to CarPlay or Android Auto, if I push and hold this, it's going to activate Siri or the Google Assistant. On the right side of the steering wheel, we have the cruise control with a couple more music buttons. So this ring button and top button are going to be for the cruise control. Like I mentioned in the review video, you have the dynamic radar cruise control, which is where the Camry can actually sense when it's coming up on somebody on the highway and it'll slow down and match their speed. When I push this little button here with the car, the top of the MID will have a little green symbol like that. But however, if I were to push and hold that button, it changes to the constant speed, which is the old school cruise control in case I don't like the adaptive feature. But anyway, when I push it quickly, it says radar ready. And then what happens there is I would hit set to set the speed to my cruise control. Then I can increase speed or decrease speed on that cruise control. I can cancel it like that, reset, or I can just push the brake to turn the whole system off. I can change the following distance with this button here, between 3 different following distances. The lane departure alert, which is another feature in Toyota Safety Sense, will beep when you're going out of your lane and give you some steering input. Now we can adjust the sensitivity or turn certain features off on this, but we'll get into that when we get to the MID. But you can just quickly turn the system on and off, and on the bottom of the MID there in the corner, you'll see the little white car going out of its lane. If I don't like the lane departure alert, I can turn that off very easily. And down below I have the mode, which will go from AM, FM, Bluetooth, and I can switch my songs right on these 2 buttons over here. Onto the Speedo Cluster. On the left side of the Speedo Cluster, I have the button for the odometer and trip, which you'll see on the bottom right of the MID. I can see the miles. So when I push the button, it'll bounce through trip A and B. If I push and hold the auto trip, I can reset the trip like that, and then change it back to the odometer. This button here is a little picture of a speedometer with a light bulb. These 2 arrows change the brightness. So you'll see I can turn that brightness down a little bit if it's a little too bright at night, or I can turn it all the way up or anywhere in between that I like. The speedometer and tachometer are part of the Speedo Cluster. They're very easy readers, and it's very easy to see analog what's going on. So on the bottom right, I have the engine temperature. I have the tachometer over here, my fuel level, with a little picture of an arrow next to the fuel pump to remind me what side my gas cap is on, and then my analog speed, which is in miles per hour, or the small numbers are in kilometers per hour. The multi-information display, also known as the MID, is the little screen that helps me out while I'm driving. I can use the arrows on the left side of my steering wheel over here to go through the different menus up and down the pages. I can hit OK and I can go back. So when I go left to right, you'll see the different icons light up on the top there. I is for information. This is for my safety sense system and cruise control. This is messages if the car is trying to warn me of anything. And then here's my settings. If I go over again, I go to the information page. Before we dive into those menus, on the very top left, I can see what gear I'm in. So if I shift down to drive, it'll say D. I also have R. Or if I shift over to change my gears, I can toggle between the gears and it tells me what gear I'm in. Or back in a park. Like I mentioned, if I put the parking brake on, it says right there on the left where the tachometer is. On the top there, you see the little green symbol. That just means I hit the radar button. I can just turn that off for the cruise control. And then if I want the lane departure alert back on, which is that little button there, you'll see it on the bottom of the screen. So that's the feature that beeps when I go out of my lane. Then I have my odometer on the bottom and BSM for blind spot monitor. Those are the little orange lights that light up in the side mirrors when somebody's in your blind spot. RCTA is going to be rear cross traffic alert. That's part of the blind spot monitor system, the BSM. And the RCTA senses moving cars when I'm backing up, senses movement. So it's not a full parking sonar that beeps when I'm getting close to a stationary item. It's actually a system that's going to detect movement while I'm reversing, just to let me know it senses things are moving around. So very helpful if you're, avoiding a busy parking lot, you're backing into a spot, it can kind of say, hey, there's somebody driving behind you. So super helpful. But now we're in the information page. When I go down, it'll start me at the top here. So here's my trip averages for my miles, total trip time that the car has been on. If I go down again, I have more miles per gallon stuff. I can even press and hold OK to reset it. Here I have my distance to empty, which after, a few runs on a couple new tanks, you'll start to get much more accurate averages there. And then I have the eco indicator, so kind of like a throttle indicator to show me if I'm driving economical or not. And then I have the digital speedo right over here, which people love. If I hit the right arrow, that's just going to tell me which systems are on or off. So if I turn on the LTA, which is your lane tracing assist, which is part of your lane departure alert system, it's just letting you know it's active. See? And then it'll give me a little guideline picture, and the different sides of the lane will light up if I'm going out of the lane. If I go over again, this is where messages are stored if I need service, if my tire pressure is low, or if the car is trying to tell me something's up. And it'll keep that orange, by the way, in case you have something that it needs but not urgent. It'll save it right there. Settings, this is a more in-depth menu. So when I push and hold the OK button on LTA, I can change all this different stuff. So the lane center, if I don't like it to try and stay in the center of the lane, I can turn that off or on. The sensitivity I can change to high, standard, or high. Yeah, just those two. So there's no more low anymore. Sway warning, it senses if I'm driving around tired and it'll remind me to take a break. I can turn that on or off. And the sway sensitivity I can change. So if I want it to be more sensitive or less, I can do that as well. So I just hit the back button. The pre-collision system, also part of the Toyota Safety Sense. That's supposed to be a little picture of a car hitting another car. That little star is like the bump. If I push and hold OK, I can change a couple different things. I can turn it on or off. Of course, if I turn it off, it's going to give me warning light right over there in orange. Turn it back on, and then I can change the sensitivity between low, medium, or high. Dynamic radar cruise control, also known as adaptive cruise control. That's the system I demonstrated on the steering wheel. If I push and hold OK, I can just kind of change the speed reduction. So if I don't want it to brake so hard, it'll take a little bit more time to brake, but it's going to space it out a little bit more. So that's a small customization. Blind spot monitor, on or off, pretty simple. When I turn it back on, both the bulbs will light up. Rear cross traffic alert, another thing, on or off. And sorry about that quick little pause. And rear camera detection. So what this does is when your RCTA, the rear cross traffic alert, is active, it's going to sense motion. The RCD you can turn off if you don't want the display to alert you what it sees. So like if it's going to show a little picture of a person when it senses people, I can turn the RCD off and it's going to warn me that the RCD is off. So it's only going to be an audio, not a visual. By putting the RCD on, I'm also receiving the visual cue on the screen when I'm in reverse. Road sign assist, also part of Toyota Safety Sense. It'll read certain road signs and display them on the MID. And then if I push and hold vehicle settings, here's some more advanced things here. So the blind spot monitor brightness, the blind spot monitor sensitivity. The brightness is just to the orange lights on the mirror. The rear cross traffic alert volume, because the beep is going to be like a dee-dee-dee-dee, dee-dee-dee-dee. It's like sets of 4, and it's kind of loud, so I can change the volume here. The tire pressure monitoring system here, so I can set the pressure, change the wheels. And then the rear seat reminder. So when you turn the car off, it's going to beep to remind you. It's going to be like ding. It's going to remind you, check, just don't forget your kids, don't forget your pets, don't forget, your book bag that you need, whatever. It's reminding you to just double check the back so you have everything you need, or don't forget the important people in your life. And scheduled maintenance. I can just reset my data when I come for maintenance. Usually the technicians do that. Then when I hit the back button, I go down again, and there's some more settings like language, units, the eco indicator. So that's a little green leaf that pops up when you're driving economically, but if you step on the throttle too hard, he disappears. So it promotes you not hammering on that throttle too much. And then drive info, just average speed, total time, typical stuff here. Not very advanced settings. Pop-up display, just the brightness here on the MID. And then if I want to go back to default, say I just bought the car, or I'm going to sell the car. And back over on the MID, we go right back to the information page. And that concludes the MID. Let's move on to some easier stuff, like the buttons down by the shifter, and work our way up. So, buttons by the shifter. We have an eco mode, normal mode, and sport mode. These are different drive modes that you can change while driving. The eco mode will actually just say eco mode on the bottom of the MID here. The normal mode is going to say nothing. And then the sport mode is going to light the MID up red and also say sport. So you see eco is blue, normal is blue, sport is red. They kind of should have put green here, but this is not a review video. So you have the writing on the bottom, but you'll know you're in sport mode when it's red. Basically, sport's going to give you a little more power. Eco is going to give you better gas mileage and depower you slightly. Normal is going to be a blend between the two. You can change these while driving. You can change them while stationary. There's no specific time when to use them. Just use them whenever you feel you need. It kind of changes the personality of the car. Beneath those, I have the driver and passenger heated seat buttons, 3 different levels of heat. When I go down to drive, I can shift it over to sport or shift, and I can toggle up or toggle down. That's the plus and minus. It'll show me on the MID if I'm going up in gear or if I'm going down in gear, and then back to drive, back to park. And in front of these, I have my little sliding storage. If I have the convenience package, there'll be a Qi wireless charger here, but all the Camrys will come with these little doors for the USB and the 12-volt plugs. Moving up to the climate control. So we have these two main knobs here. These are going to change the temperature for the driver and the passenger. If I change the passenger side, it's unsynced. So I push sync to synchronize it, and I can change the whole car like this. I have my front defrost on the left here, rear defrost on the right. Since this Camry has the cold weather package, I also have the defrosting side mirrors. That's also why I have the heated seats. I can turn the system off, turn it back on with the fan right here. You have a big fan and little fan for the fan speed. Notice how everything is right next to its button, so it's a very easy reader. Everything is next to the button. Air direction is right here, right next to the button. And then I have AC and recirculate right next to each other, which I would use in the hot weather. Super simple, easy to read climate control. Not a whole lot to go into. And right above, just got my hazards button right over there. Now let's move on to the overhead features, and we'll save the infotainment screen for last. Overhead features, just a simple flipper here. With the convenience package, I would also have the auto-dimming rear view mirror with the home link, but this is not a convenience package equipped Camry, so I just have a simple flipper there. LED lights on both sides, and a flip down door for the SOS button, which is part of the standard safety connect, which comes with a long trial. And then my reading glasses holder or sunglasses holder right over here with a nice soft backing so I don't scratch up my lenses. Little slider for when the sun is in that awkward spot. And when I open up the slider here for the mirror, another LED light. It's pretty much all you get up top. If you get the sunroof package, there would be a sunroof over here and additional sunroof buttons. You'd have a tilt and slide and an open and close, so you can fully operate your sunroof / moonroof, whatever you'd like to call that. So that would take up that space over there. But these are all your overhead features. Let's work our way down to the infotainment screen and wrap up the video. The infotainment screen. So Toyota's classic infotainment screen that's been around for a while. You have the two main buttons here, the knobs, and then you have the 4 buttons on each side. On the right side, they put the buttons that are not as pertinent to the driver. So you have seek and track for the music, which you can change right on the steering wheel. So this is more of a passenger button. The phone button, which you also have one on the steering wheel, and then your apps button, which is kind of a redundancy because when you connect to the CarPlay, which we're connected to, or the Android Auto, you're not going to need the apps button. Tune and scroll is over here just in case you need, but most people are usually listening to YouTube Music, Amazon Music, or like me, Apple Music, and you're not really going to be using the tune and scroll, but if you're old school and you listen to the radio, you have it just in case you need it. More important to you, the driver, you have the home screen, which we're in. We have the menu button to do some settings, which we're going to do in just a moment, audio for the radio, and then map, which is going to put us into the navigation system, and then a push power for the volume and power to the music. But keeping it simple, the home screen, say you're not doing CarPlay, this little widget here will give you 4 slots so you can save people's numbers when you connect to Bluetooth so that they're one tap away. So there's a shortcut you can create. And then here's the audio. It's showing that, this is a song that I had playing, but if you have FM radio, it'll show in there. You can just tap that and it'll take over the entire screen. Or I can go back to home. And there's also some other information here about my miles per gallon. But say I wanted to adjust the home screen, I would go into menu and I could go to setup and I would go to customize home screen. So here's where I can change the layout. If I want it to be bigger or smaller, 4-way, 3-way, 2-way, and I can change what it shows, which is really convenient depending on what your needs are. A couple other things you might appreciate are going to be that the general setup here that we're in is also where you can change the clock. You can also change your language, you can turn the beep off, and you can change the color theme. So say I like it a little bit more sporty, say I have a Camry SE, boom. But for the point of the video, I think the white background is a little bit easier, it causes less reflection. So that makes things a little easier to see. Back to the menu. There are some intertwined things here, so kind of like everything is kind of like interwebbed. So this is just going to do the same thing as the audio button on the side over here. You're just going to access the audio. Apps, same thing as the apps button over here. CarPlay, same thing as when I'm on the home screen, I can just hit CarPlay. So those are just different ways to get to those things. When you hit menu, you know you're in the menu because it says menu. The only 2 things you're really going to do are these, unless you really want to see your gas mileage. You have some more information about your economy. which is not going to be accurate for a vehicle that's sitting and idling and hasn't really driven more than 3 miles. But back to menu. Display is where you can change the brightness to this screen, or my favorite, screen off. So you can still listen to music with the screen off. You can still change the volume, and to activate that screen, you just push one of the side buttons and you're good to go. So menu, display, screen off, you're done. In here we have just a couple more settings you might like. This is where we can do the software update. A lot of this other stuff is more advanced, but over here we have the voice. You can train voice recognition, so you can kind of make the Camry recognize your voice when you do voice commands, which is the little button on the steering wheel. Really cool. So there's like a little tutorial you can do. Now when I hit the down arrow, I can also do vehicle settings. So here's another one of my favorite spots. For vehicle customization, you can change your door lock settings. So when you put the Camry into park, it's going to unlock all the doors. If you're like me and you don't like that, you can change that. So the auto unlock, you can turn off, and then when you put it into park, those doors are going to stay locked. Most people like that when you put it in drive, the doors lock automatically, so it just comes from the factory like that. But see, you can change the remote feature, so if you don't want to have to push it 2 times to unlock everything, you can change it. Another really cool thing that not a lot of people know about is your feedback lights and your feedback tone. So when you hit that remote to unlock the car, it's going to go beep beep really loud. Say that's a little too loud for you. Say you get up and you leave early in the morning and it's loud and it's jarring. You can turn it down. Say you want to be incognito, you can turn it off all the way. So say you're like me and you just want it to blink. You can turn the beep off entirely. Say you don't want it to blink at all. You can turn the blink off right there. So you can totally use your imagination and customize this car, which is really cool. You can turn the blink all the way off and the tone all the way off and just listen for the locks if you want to just be totally a ghost, or somewhere in between if you just want it toned down a notch. So people appreciate that stuff. You can totally customize those. Light settings is another one you might like. You can change the sensitivity to the auto headlights, which is just a little round sensor up there on the top. That's how it tells when you're in a tunnel or when it's nighttime. So don't put your box of tissues on there. It'll always think it's dark. Daytime running lights, they give you the option to turn it off. Kind of silly in my opinion, but basically when you leave the lights in auto, it'll have it so that you don't have daytime running lights, but you will have all the lights when it gets dark out. I personally think that daytime running lights are a good idea because, in my opinion, I've noticed when I drive with them on, people don't cut me off as much. I've experimented. I drive with the daytime running lights off during the day sometimes I'm at Tacoma, and I get cut off a lot more. I feel like these daytime running lights will help people see you, but it's nice to have your freedom, so they give you the option. The interior lights, in my Tacoma, I like them to be on longer, so you can change that there. That's when you turn off the vehicle, those dome lights come on, you can change that. So that's pretty cool. Convenience services, that's just simple service stuff. Climate settings, the auto AC mode is a good idea to keep on because the car will know when to put the AC on when you're more likely to need it. And that's pretty much everything there. Just trying to keep this stuff simple. Wi-Fi, for when it comes with the Wi-Fi trowel, you can get that set up. So you can turn this into a Wi-Fi hotspot. But then back to general settings. It's very simple stuff. I'm trying to think what else I could show you here. Most of these things here, like the keyboard QWERTY, you're not going to be changing that stuff into different keyboards. Most people are using the QWERTY keyboard, but it's kind of cool that they give you that. And then, you know, if you're traveling, you can change the units. But when I hit map, here's where we can go through the different maps that we use. So say I like Apple Maps, I can use Apple Maps. Say I like Waze, I can use Waze. With the Android Auto, it's going to look a little bit different, but for the CarPlay, here's what it looks like. It's going to look just like your phone screen. So it's going to search for different apps. And pay attention when you plug it in for the first time, because it's going to ask you specific questions like allow CarPlay when the phone is locked. I suggest you hit yes. Transfer contacts, up to you. Most people hit yes. And different, like search for compatible apps, yes, I recommend that one. But I can even access the calendar, which I'm not going to show you guys what's on the calendar, but you know, simple stuff there. And then when I do this, it's going to be more of a home screen. But check this out. When I hit Toyota, it's going to go right back to the Toyota Infotainment System. So you're kind of bouncing back and forth between the two software systems. You're going between your smartphone and you're going between the Toyota system. And then to get back, I would just hit menu and go to CarPlay. See that? I get that really cool album art. And that pretty much keeps things simple for the CarPlay and the infotainment system without making this a 2-hour-long video. These little widgets down here just represent apps. So when I hit that, it's gonna go to all the different apps. When I hit this, it's gonna show my home screen, but I have my personal information on my calendar app, so I'm not gonna push that. I wanna keep it a little private. Hope you all respect that. But on here is kind of like my control panel. It's gonna save the 3 apps that I've used most recently. So if I hit phone, it's gonna save it there. And as I use the apps, it's gonna try to guess which app I wanna use. See? Pretty neat. And then you have full operation here. So if you wanna do like a bird's eye view, pretty cool stuff. And then like I said, when I go back to apps, Toyota, now I can do, if I wanna, you know, change some settings, turn the screen off, yada, yada, yada. Super simple. And that's your tutorial, guys, of the 2023 Toyota Camry LE. Let me know what you thought. I hope you liked it. If there's something I missed that you needed me to go over in detail more, let me know down below. You can always find me in the comments. Please give this video a like if it served you well, and consider subscribing for more Toyota content and sharing it with a friend or family, because just you liking it and just you subscribing for more stuff tells YouTube that it's worth promoting my stuff to other people to help them as well. So I appreciate that for those that do. Thank you, everybody. See you in the next video. Peace.